In a daring daylight escape, a hijacked helicopter sweeps down into the yard at a federal low-security prison. At the controls, a convict who'd escaped from the same prison. He's come back to free his inmate lover.
Welcome to Greatest Prison Escapes. I'm your host, Billy Hayes. I know a little about escaping from prison. On October 2nd, 1975, I escaped from a Turkish prison 5 years into a life sentence. The story of my escape was the subject of my book and the Oscar-winning film, Midnight Express. Whatever got us there, everyone in prison is thinking of one thing: getting out. This series is about those who make the ultimate decision, seeking freedom at any cost. In this episode, we take a close look at one of the most famous prison breaks in American history. It's a remarkable story of Ron McIntosh and Samantha Dorinda Lopez. It's a case that can only be called the Romeo and Juliet prison break. Con men are big dreamers, ambitious, always looking for an edge, the next big score. Affluent Sausalito, California, just north of the Golden Gate Bridge, seemed like the promised land to Ron McIntosh.
Ron was a California boy who early on developed a passion for the good life.
Well-dressed, fast-talking, long on charm, but very short on ethics.
Sure is a beauty. Low miles, one owner, and she runs like a bat out of hell.
In the early 80s, Ron was a successful car salesman, making good money, much of it by scamming his customers. Ron McIntosh even joined the Army to avoid going to jail for his many scams. He was a helicopter mechanic, learned to fly choppers, and was a decorated war hero. There was a big gold rush back then, the value of precious metals going through the roof. Everyone wanted in. Ron saw his opportunity. Ron was selling precious metal like it was going out of style. He even offered to store it for his buyers in the company vault.
You're not gonna regret this, my friend.
No, I'm not. But you might.
I've seen a lot of people like Ron McIntosh, and what makes them all similar is the only person they care about is themselves. They don't care about the consequences or the lives of the people they've hurt.
He sold over 18 million in precious metals. He even scammed the elderly, but it didn't last long. They were soon demanding to take possession, and there was no gold or silver. It was all a scam.
Con men and women are typically afflicted with antisocial personality disorder. Some characteristics might be lack of empathy, yet they can be very sweet, caring, and cunning, and they have a flagrant disregard for others.
Ron McIntosh was given a 6 to 15-year prison sentence in a minimum security facility in Dublin, California. So the California prison system now had its Romeo. All it needed was its Juliet. She would arrive as a small-town bank robber named Samantha Dorinda Lopez. Their unusual romance would soon lead to one of the world's greatest prison escapes. Samantha was from a very small town in Georgia. She was married 3 times before the age of 30. Last one was a preacher with a side job as a bank robber. He needed a driver and a lookout. That's how she got started.
When like-minded criminals come together, and due to your gender you're cast aside, you want to do something about it.
Now it's real simple. We go in the back door, wave guns in their faces.
And we say, give us the damn money or you die.
That's simple, right? You checked everything out. How much money's in there? Do you even know how to open that vault? Little things like that. That's it? You idiots. You didn't know that an armored car picked up the big money because you didn't check. Same thing with the time lock on the vault.
So she took over the gang. They commit one crime, they get away with it. They commit another one, maybe they get away with that one. The crimes keep getting bigger and bigger, and eventually they get caught.
The fact that Dorinda Lopez not only orchestrated and robbed, they actually would go to the bank president's home and hold the family members at gunpoint as hostages so they could complete the robbery and gain the cooperation of the bank president.
I was involved both in the investigation as to their whereabouts when they were fugitives, and then I prosecuted the case in court and handled the appeal after conviction. What we quickly learned about the criminal record of Samantha Dorinda Lopez is that she had something like 29 convictions for writing bad checks. In addition, she had suffered 2 convictions for federal armed bank robbery with hostage taking. She got sentenced to, as my understanding, 50-year terms on each of those to run concurrently.
And she was mean. She was a mean lady.
All the players are up on the stage being a minimum security federal correction institute in Northern California. And upon that stage, a drama of one of our greatest prison escapes was about to cast more characters. They were housed in the same grounds, but in separate areas. The male and female sections of the Federal Correction Institute at Dublin, California.
The inmates have a lot of options for programming in those facilities. Once the doors open up in the morning, they can kind of come and go as they please. It's definitely the prison you want to be in if you're behind a wall.
She should have been in a maximum security prison.
So this poor warden was looking for help in his office and came across Samantha with her very sweet, loving, helpful demeanor. She was perfect. She manipulated her way right into that office.
I compiled all the inmate disciplinary reports into one big file with sub-files, lowest to highest.
Yes, you filed bank robbery on the low end. Nice work, Samantha.
You're welcome.
Can you imagine being 35 years old and having been given a sentence of 50 years to life? You'll be in your 80s by the time you get out. While dealing with the warden, Ron used his Vietnam background to get into the warden's good graces.
Ron's good behavior and his spotless Vietnam War record earned him a highly coveted job, one that would soon change everything.
What I'm going to have you do is work in the administration from 9 to 5, and you keep up the progress, you keep working hard, and you'll be out of here sooner than later.
All of a sudden, your knight in shining armor shows up and sweeps you off your feet. Poor Ron needed a mama. He needed someone to take care of him, somebody to coddle him and make sure that he was okay. And she was the one.
They fell in love instantly. Understandable, perhaps, considering the shallow dating pool in a federal penitentiary about to make history.
So Samantha was able to manipulate Ron by putting on that little girl persona. She led him to believe that she was in danger, that she'd been molested, that somehow she was being hurt while she was at the jail, and that pulled him right in.
And that guard over there, he touches me.
How cool.
Ron McIntosh was in love and he was desperate. His beloved Juliet was threatened. She was the victim of predators, or so she claimed. Ron bought it hook, line, and sinker.
I do so much
My
here.
institution.
Corruption in the prison? That was investigated. That's bull.
And Ron made a strange move. Despite the fact that he could not stand being away from Samantha Lopez, Ron applied for a transfer to the minimum security prison at Lompoc, California. It was almost 200 miles away.
Your transfer came through. You leave the day after tomorrow.
During lunch, in their favorite spot, Ron and Samantha began talking about his upcoming release, and she really turned it on.
Listen, I promise I'm not gonna let you rot here alone. I promise you.
The Bureau of Prisons, in certain circumstances, will give what's called a furlough transfer. And by that, they drive him to the bus station, give him a ticket. In this case, he was to go to Los Angeles. He didn't do that.
The second that Ron McIntosh decided to not get on that Greyhound bus headed for Lompoc, he looked over his shoulder and he never looked back. I believe 100% Ronald McIntosh had help from someone on the outside to pull this off.
When an inmate's trusted to transfer themselves to another facility, we typically give a couple hours of cushion, and when they don't show up, notifications obviously go out.
While he was on escape status, Ronald McIntosh, with some help, an apartment was rented. He was using a fake name of Lyle Thompson. I believe Ronald McIntosh escaped with 1 year remaining on his federal prison sentence for a couple of reasons. One is he was facing a fraud investigation in San Francisco, is my understanding. He was also facing a murder investigation. McIntosh knew that that investigation was one which posed a great danger to him. So the notion that he only had 1 year left, and why would he risk this if not for his girlfriend? Well, he would risk it for his own personal safety.
Ron's life on the lam after he escaped was crazy. He had to gather his money, he had to get his weapons.
Where are you?
He did rent a helicopter from the helicopter company and fly it with the pilot as a practice flight, obviously getting ready for the big day.
There was no doubt in anyone's mind that Ron McIntosh loved Samantha Lopez. He wanted her out. He didn't want to wait 5 years.
It's been 8 days. Still no word from Ron?
Nothing. He's in big trouble, Samantha.
You mind if I go to lunch?
And all of a sudden we hear a very, very loud helicopter noise. We turn to our right and we see this helicopter coming. It was really, really low to the ground. It literally hopped the fence. This giant roar of applause and cheering coming rolling in off the outdoor field. We knew exactly what had happened.
Ron wanted to fly solo that day, so his instructions to the pilot were clear.
Set down, get out.
It took a while for the law enforcement agencies to connect the dots, but when they did, they knew exactly what to do.
In 1986, I was a beat cop working on the east side of San Jose. When something of this magnitude occurs, you have so many different agencies: San Jose Police Department, Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department, Pleasanton Police Department. Those are the local agencies. The Sheriff's Department in Alameda County, CHP. Then you get helicopters up. You have Sheriff's Department helicopters up. You have news helicopters up. Then the federal agencies start to roll in. The Bureau of Prisons becoming involved. The FBI becomes involved. The U.S. Marshals become involved.
Every story needs a hero, and in this prison break, our hero is a highly decorated U.S. Marshal.
My name is John W. Stafford. I have personally arrested thousands of criminals in my career. He had phony ID under the name of Lyle Thompson. So we used that to do our search throughout the United States in the surrounding area of Pleasanton, Sacramento, Oregon, Arizona, Washington, where his mother lived. We found that he had a safe house. In that safe house, he had cold weather gear, walkie-talkies, other equipment, We found his yacht up in the waters of Washington, north of Seattle. And we put a submarine chaser right next to it. So if he showed up, he was in the bag.
But Love had other plans for this couple being chased by 8 law enforcement agencies. An impulsive purchase was in order.
How may I help you?
We need 2 rings. You know, wedding type.
How about these?
We'll take those.
But sometimes Cupid can make you very stupid.
Do you have any ID?
Yes, I do.
We did issue a grand jury subpoena for the records of the check written by Lyle Thompson to the jewelry store for the wedding rings which Lopez and McIntosh had ordered.
We know they had aliases. Marshal's office? Stafford.
It took us to Merksmer's jewelry store, which is located in Citrus Heights in Sacramento. They were supposed to come the next day. We had a guy behind the counter, one of our guys, a U.S. Marshal. McIntosh was no dummy, nor was Dorinda, and was not afraid to shoot it out with the police. I saw Dorinda, she had a wig on. All of a sudden, he is trying to open his briefcase. He doesn't have to pay for the rings, they're already paid for. This really bothered me. I watched Dorinda Lopez leave the jewelry store.
Maybe I'm gonna go outside.
I made the decision, we gotta take him down now.
U.S. Marshal! Ron, don't you move! Keep your hands where I can see them.
I opened up the briefcase. He had a Browning automatic, a .357 Magnum.
Fugitives with guns. Not good.
The stage is now a federal courthouse in San Francisco. The trial took 3 weeks to conclude, and the jury took less than an hour to decide their fate. But even Shakespeare couldn't have written a better ending.
Samantha Dorinda Lopez's defense was that she was threatened by prison guards, that she was abused, that she was threatened with her life, and that therefore her escape was necessary. I didn't believe it for 1 second. After the arrest of McIntosh and Lopez, we learned that San Mateo County authorities were investigating Ronald McIntosh for the possible contract murder of a former business associate, possible suspect in hiring a hitman named Drax Quartermain to murder a man named Ron Ewing, a former business associate.
Ron McIntosh had good instincts by avoiding the remaining year on his sentence. Remember his company that scammed $18 million out of their customers? Well, that company had some serious human resource issues. Ron Ewing picked the wrong partners. He invested in a fraudulent company, and once he discovered the scheme, he threatened to go to the police. Ron McIntosh and another business partner offered a Philadelphia man, Drax Quartermain, $55,000 to murder Ewing. So Quartermain lured him to Pacifica with the promise of a fun night with a beautiful woman. They dumped the body in the ocean, but it washed ashore. Drax even sued for the rest of the money, but was eventually sentenced to die in the gas chamber. Ron McIntosh got 25 years for air piracy and life in prison for first-degree murder. Samantha Lopez had 5 years tacked onto her sentence. The prison system changed considerably after this, but our story doesn't quite end there. Once again, Ron and Samantha found a way to connect through McIntosh's 80-year-old mother to scheme and commit yet another crime. They were planning on hitting the transfer van that would bring these two lovebirds to court, killing the marshals and sheriffs, transporting them, so they would be free to love again. But they got them on tape. They had it all on tape. Even after the circus of events, Ron McIntosh found a way to help himself. He threw some people under the bus, some very bad people. Ron's whereabouts are unknown these days, compliments the Federal Witness Protection Program. Samantha Dorinda Lopez maintains her innocence to this day. She was released from federal prison April 20th, 2010, and lives a quiet but paranoid existence moving from town to town. Even though they secretly wed during their trial, it's unlikely Ron and Samantha will ever see each other again. But the choices they made and the many lives affected by their actions ensure their place on our special list. I'm Billy Hayes. Join us again next time on Greatest Prison Escapes.